Welcome to Mrs. Vincent's Keystone video study series for 2018. This is the first video in a series of 7, and it has to do with algebra basics and solving equations. So question number 1 says 4 values are listed below. 1/7, 20%, the square root of 0.5, and the absolute value of negative 0.5. It's really hard to compare them right now, and that's what we have to do because our question is which list shows the values in order from least to greatest. Remember, least is the smallest one. So we kind of have to figure out which one is the smallest of all of these. Okay, so if we look at these, we want to look at each in the same format, and it's easiest to compare them when they're all in decimal format. So 1/7, if we change it to a decimal, we divide 1 by 7. So 1 divided by 7 is about 0.13. That's a pretty small number. You can see that is the smallest number in 2 of these. The next smallest number we have is the absolute value of negative 0.5. So the absolute value of negative 0.5. Remember, we're just looking at something that how far from 0 it is. So this is 0.5. And that's actually bigger than 1/7. So right now, we know that we can eliminate A and B because those are definitely, that's bigger than 0.13. So then we have to decide, is 20% the next one, or is the square root of 0.5 next? And 20%, if you remember, when we take it into a decimal, we want to take the decimal point and move it 2 spaces to the left, 2. So 20% is the same as 0.20. And that actually is pretty small. You can see that's the next, that looks like the next smallest from 0.13, but let's just check the square root of 0.5. We can write this as the square root of 50 over 100, okay? And the square root of 50 is about 7, because 49 is close to 50. So the square root of 49 is 7. And the square root of 100 is 10, which is 0.7. And that's actually a really big number in this series. So it looks like 1/7 is our small number. That's our first one. Our next one is 20%. So there we go, 1/7, 20%, and then we have the absolute value of negative 0.5 and the square root of 0.5. So C would be your correct answer for that one. Remember, these all have to be the same type of number in order to compare them, and decimals is the easiest one to do that with. Okay? On to question number 2. It says an inequality is shown below. So we have 4 times AB cubed is greater than 15A cubed B. And then it says which values of A and B make the inequality true. So what makes the left side bigger than the right side? Okay, so C doesn't make sense, I don't think, because that would give us 0 on the one side, and it would also give us a 0 on the left side as well, because we have 4 times 2 times 0 cubed is greater than 15 times 2 cubed times 0. And remember, anything times 0 is 0. So that means I have 0 is greater than 0, so C is automatically no good. If I look at the first answer, it has everything as A, so let's substitute that in. So 4 times 1 cubed is greater than 15 times 1 cubed times 1. So that would actually give me 1 cubed, so 4 is greater than 15. That makes no sense either. Notice all I'm doing is substituting values in and then calculating to see what makes sense. So B has A equals 1 and B equals 2. So we have 4 times 1 times 2 cubed is greater than 15 times 1 cubed times 2. So we're going to cube first by order of operations. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2 to the third power is 8. So we have 4 times 8, which is 32. And 15 times 1, because 1 cubed is 1, times 2 gives us 30. So we have 32 is greater than 30, and it looks like that one makes more sense. So it looks like B right now is our answer, but let's just double check that with D. So we have 4 times 2 times 1 cubed, which still gives us the same thing as before. So 32 is greater than 15 times 2 to the third power times 1, which is 15 times 8, and that's definitely bigger than 32. So B is the correct answer with that one. How'd you do? Hopefully you understood that one. Let's move on to the next question. So we have number 3 here. It says an equation involving polynomials is shown below. What are the values of A and B? So notice A is right here with the X, and B is right here with the Y. So what we have to do is look at X terms and Y terms separately, and we have what they equal. They equal 2X plus Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my X values and add them up, and I'm going to take my Y values and add them up and see what we get. So I have AX plus X minus 3X, and that has to equal 2X. So far, so good. Let's look at the values that X could be, okay? So we want to solve this for A, okay? So remember, the coefficient of just X is 1. So we have AX minus 2X. So see here, that's 2X equals 2X. And then I can add 2X to both sides. So I get AX equals 4X. So that must mean that A has to equal 4. That eliminates C and D. So let's see if B can be negative 3 or positive 3. Okay, so let's do the same thing for our Y's. So I have 5Y minus Y, and then minus negative BY equals Y. So remember, minus negative. Don't forget that extra negative. This gives us 4Y plus BY equals Y. Now I subtract 4y from both sides. And remember, the coefficient of y is 1. So we have BY equals negative 3y. So far, so good. This just means that B has to be equal to negative 3. So B equals negative 3, that's A. I hope you understood that one. It was really just a matter of combining like terms and making sure that everything is together. For number 6, we have a caterer that uses 4 pans of lasagna to serve 30 people. At this rate, how many pans of lasagna does the caterer use to serve 390 people? Honestly, for this one, I would use maybe equivalent fractions or proportions to do this, because I know I have 4 pans of lasagna that feeds 30 people. I also know that some value of pans of lasagna feeds 390 people. So I can solve this using a proportion and cross multiply, and I can have 30x equals 4 times 390, and then divide by 30, and I get x equals 4 times 13, because I know 390 divided by 30 is 13, and 4 times 13 is 52. So that tells me I need 52 pans of lasagna. If you did this by equivalent of fractions, you go 30 times what gives you 390. So it's times 13. And if I do that to my denominator, I also do that to my numerator. So 4 times 13 gives you 52. So that one was really not too bad. You just have to remember equivalent fractions or proportions to complete that one. So number 7, I think this is the last one in this video. So number 7, which linear equation has the points 1/2, 3/4, and 4, 3 as solutions? For this one, you could do a couple of different things. For one thing, you could look at substituting those values in, because we have an x value and a y value in each point. Another thing that you can do is, if you know the different forms of a linear equation, you can also look at analyzing those first. So I know that C and D are both point-slope form. And in point-slope form, we have an x value and we have a y value in each equation. So both of those give me a point. These give me the point 4, 3, and D gives me the point 3, 4. Well, right off the bat, that eliminates D as one of my solutions. I can check C to see if 1/2, 3/4 is also a solution to that equation by substituting it in. So I would take y is 3/4 minus 3 equals 14/9 times 1/2 minus 4. I know it's fractions. If you substitute this into your calculator, you should be okay. So 3/4 minus 3 is -2 1/4. Or I can change it to a mixed improper fraction if I want to. And that equals 14/9 times 1/2 minus 4 is -3 3.5. So 3.5 is the same as 7/2. Okay, and 2/4 is the same as 2 times 4 is 8 and 1 is 9, so that's -9/4. Well, you know what? There's no way I'm going to get that here. So that means that I have to substitute the other ones. So this one doesn't work, although it looks like C is at least partially right. So let's try A really quickly. Okay, let's get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. That's just going to cause us some issues looking at it. So we'll look at letter A. So again, we're going to substitute values in. So if I do 9 times 4 minus 14 times 3 equals -6. So 9 times 4 is 36. And 14 minus 3 is 42 equals -6. So A works. So A is a possibility. Let's just double check B really quickly with 4/3. Okay. or for 3. So 9 times 4 plus 14 times 3 equals 78. So we have 36 plus 42 equals 78. And that one looks like it works too, because 36 and 42 is 78. So both of those are still in the running, so it's only the fractions we have to do. So let's look at the fraction for A. Okay. So the fractions for A, again, we're going to substitute in for x and y. So we get 9 times 1/2 minus 14 times 3/4 equals -6. So we have, let's see, 9/2 minus, and I'm going to do some simplifying here. If you have your calculator, you can certainly do that as well. So 21/2. Since the same denominator, I can take 9 minus 21, which gives me -12 divided by 2, and that gives me -6. So it looks like A is the correct answer. You can also check for B. So 9 times 1/2, again, we get our 9/2. This time we get plus, so 9/2 plus 21/2, which gives us 30/2, which is 15. It doesn't give us our 78. So B is incorrect. I hope this video helped you, and I really hope that you understand what's going on. Feel free to watch this again if you need more support for